Cheryl, you can start the meeting when you're ready. $850 Holtz. Oh, I see. It's,
Bring the meeting to order. If everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, call roll.
Chuck, new? Oh, there he is. Wonderful. Alice, Cheryl,
Here.
Mike is absent. He is ill. Rick?
Yep, I'm here.
At this point, does anyone have any opening remarks? Going forward, are we in compliance with the Nevada open meeting law?
Yes.
So at this time, we'll take public comment related to the items on the agenda below. In consideration of others who may also wish to provide public comment, please avoid repetition and limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Is there any public comment? Mr. Rao?
Yes, this is for stuff on the agenda in regards to the street lights. On the 18th of August, I went through the town about 11 o'clock at night and recorded all the lights that were on. This is on the 18th. And on the 19th, I presented a copy of this to the city council, to the city attorney, and to anybody that was present that wanted a copy of this, including the general manager of the Lincoln County Power District, who's now handling our electrical stuff.
Okay.
And anyway, here's a list of the stuff. And how many copies have I got? I think I got just enough.
Thank you, sir.
I've been complaining about this at several council meetings in prior time. And according to our city foreman, when I would complain, he would text the power district and tell them he's got problems, he wants to take care of it. They were working, I didn't think it was a priority. Anyway, he said he seemed to have got the general manager's attention because they were working on it the next day.
Okay.
So, but which ones they fixed and which ones did that, I don't know. Some of them.
You're missing one.
Anyway, that covers the ones that were asked, and that was on the agenda for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Ken's on a Zoom meeting.
Ken is on the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, Joanne just answered my phone for me.
Yeah, Ken,
Oh,
Ken was at, a meeting with,
maybe you ought to mute Ken. I think I muted him. Oh,
Is there any other public comment? Okay, at this time, items for discussion and possible action, approve and deny the meeting minutes for August 18th, 2021.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3B, approve or deny recommendation to council for Lane Truman's request for a conditional use permit at number 7 Love Lane, parcel 003021118 for a vacation home short-term rental.
So he just changed it to one now instead of two, right?
yes, that's what he did because he had already paid for the one conditional use permit and we had already sent out all those letters. So for just the one. And he will do number 5 at a later date.
Okay, what kind of restrictions can we put on an approval like this? For example, he's one of the places that we'll be talking about later that's not cleaned up. And so if we have a rental place that's not cleaned up, how well is that going to be taken care of? So that's why I'm asking, because I want to make sure that we can put some restrictions on it or something on it, so I just can't rent the shack next to me.
Right, as long as they're objective and measurable restrictions, right, that can be fairly and evenly applied, I guess. Right, so I guess what I'm saying is you can't put a restriction on that says if it looks like a mess, you can't rent it out, because that's not objective, right?
Right.
So there just has to be an objective and measurable restriction.
So if it was worded to the effect that it must follow all
Yeah.
city codes for,
Must comply with, yeah, city code, that's fine.
Sure.
And I don't mean to be rude, but I'm just, what good has that done for the rest of the city? I mean, it's a mess. Our little city's a mess. It could be a little mini Prescott, but, I mean, I went around today and took pictures and it's just, so how will you enforce this? How is this being enforced? Who's taking care, who's in charge of monitoring what's going on in the town?
Okay, so what we're really doing, we're talking about Lane Truman's rental now, but we'll be talking about all the extra debris and weeds and stuff later.
Well, my question, I'm sorry, Rick, but my question is, how will it be enforced if
For-
it's not being enforced now?
For the rental, you mean?
For any property, a rental, a homeowner, people buying from Vegas and leaving them here to be a mess, and then, you know, I mean, how do you, if it's not being enforced now, how will we enforce it in the future?
I still think we need to defer that question to when we hit the next one, or two more from now. And that's a very valid question, and we'll address it then.
But we're getting back to lanes. On any rental that we're gonna have, we need to put some type of restrictions on or have some say on how to do that, whether we say they have to stay with the city ordinances or whatever we have to say to be able to do that. Because like I says, it's not rentable shape now, let's put it that way, on the outside.
What, I'm sorry?
It's not rentable for the outside. So,
The other question, does he pay taxes on the income from that rent like a motel does for short-term?
Yes. Yes, because Mrs. Roberts had to do
Yeah,
the same
Right, I
thing.
mean, but that's like income tax and thing, we don't see income tax.
No,
You're talking room tax.
We only see,
Room tax.
oh, city tax, right, so
room
there is a
tax,
tax.
room tax.
Yeah.
When we had a vacation.
Right.
Can I just say too, that might help, he's not gonna rent that on a vacation rental if he doesn't clean it up. I mean, that's a big thing. You know, vacation rentals really are a good thing. I know a lot of people applaud them in some areas, they can be, you know, a nuisance. But for something up here, you know, he's gonna have it looking nice, so people are gonna find out they'll never rent it on.
Quick question, for a regular rental property as opposed to a short-term rental, just a regular rental, do they have to get a conditional use permit for that?
No,
Okay, I was just curious.
because it's not, I mean, because it's still a single-family residential, this is a little bit different, it's a business that's being run, I guess.
I would like to make a comment. I went through your facility. It was beautiful, and it was always been maintained beautifully, and it's a real asset to our city.
I think anything that gets rented, more than, has to be rented for 30 days or more.
right.
So at this point, would anybody like to make any kind of a motion on this item? As far as a recommendation for the conditional use permit with maybe some additional language?
I don't have a problem with it as long as we have something saying that they have to go with the building code. I mean, our ordinance, city ordinances and rules and regulations.
Yeah, I mean, they're generally applicable, so they'll have to abide by city ordinances. So I guess it wouldn't be a special term or condition. They're required to abide by city ordinances.
Well, but we have a little bit more power, for lack of a better word. We can pull the conditional use permit where we wouldn't necessarily be able to on a regular home.
Yeah, well, you could do that anytime. If you believe that they're not abiding by city code, then you can pull their conditional use permit.
And that, so we don't, without having that written in, we wouldn't need to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I move that we approve the conditional use permit for number 7 Love Lane.
Anybody like to second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
One of the things before we move on, one of the reasons why people are going to that too is because I think personally, it's good for the community, but also, if I rent a place in Caliente and somebody leaves a power bill, I have to pay for it. If they leave in a mess, I have to clean it up. Not that person that rented the place, but the owner has to do it. And I think the city really needs to take a look at how they can change that around. So I can make a mess here and have $1,000 power bill, but I can rent the house next door tomorrow and start all over again. But the renter, he has to pay for it. So I think the city really needs to look at how they're gonna approach that as well, because a lot of people aren't renting anymore because of that reason. So that's why I don't have rentals. But anyway.
Okay, moving forward, approve or deny the recommendation to council for Kevin D. Roberts' request for an easement on the west side of 850 Holt Avenue, parcel 00313-113, to grant road access to parcel 003-13-401 and parcel number 003-13-406. So,
Kevin, you wanna talk?
yeah, why don't you come talk?
Okay, we want to know, basically, we want to put in a private lane, it'll have a, I guess you could say an easement, even though I met with Grant Perkins when we do, because we're gonna put sewer and water back there now, because there's a couple of lots back there.
Mhm.
But we will put a manhole up at the street on Holt, and there will also be one in the easement that's in the back already that comes between those lots. So basically, it's more of a private drive than even an easement, because I don't think there'll be any service going through there, but it's to basically get back to there. Because that road back there that everybody travels is not a road, it's just an easement. And, more back there. Those, they come flying through there on four-wheelers and stuff, well, it's not just kids. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. So we're just trying to put a little private drive to go in between the two lots there and be able to
And how wide is it?
14.
So whose property are you going to be cutting into?
It is the 850 Holt, I own it.
Oh, you
So
own it.
he owns all the
See,
properties.
because I tried pulling it up and 850
It's-
wouldn't even
It's
show up.
It's KR Construction, which I assume is owned by Mr. Roberts. And then he has 3 parcels behind there. So the servient parcel and the dominant parcels all belong to Mr. Roberts. And so,
You have to ask permission of yourself.
Well,
he,
trying to do the right thing.
Right, I appreciate it.
so yeah, initially, when I heard about this, I thought, so you're not gonna grant the easement to the city, you just want a private easement on there?
Yeah, I just,
Okay.
whatever's, I don't know what, the laws or the ordinances or whatever. I mean, basically, like I said, I don't think there'll ever be any reason to dig this up on the private lane part, because there's no, the manholes are on both ends, so that's where you would service it from. So, once we get that in,
So if you sold it,
That would be
probably
between.
better to have an easement in
Yeah, and that'd be
place,
between
right?
him and the buyer. I mean, if the thing is, if he ever sold the dominant lot, then he would just have to make sure that that the deed on the dominant lot has the easement in there as well.
Actually, those lots are landlocked if they didn't have that unofficial road. And I looked them up, and everybody that has a lot back there owns the lot in front of it. So basically, what you are doing is making those two lots no longer landlocked. And if you make and I was questioning the easement and how it would be recorded on deeds. And, you know, and we don't have any maps, so I don't know how wide or how much, you know, how, you know, wide you're gonna make it. But
Just
if
as
you
a
sell the front lot,
comment,
yeah,
Ken,
well, Mr. Roberts is in the process of parceling those additional lots off. He cannot parcel those off as long as there's no access to them.
right.
So he needs the access now to get around the landlocked issue.
So
He
that
is in the
easement needs to be
process, am I
the
right,
width of a
Kevin?
road.
You're in,
No, it's only
Kevin, are
14
you in the
feet.
process now of doing that?
The easement needs to be the width of a road.
No, it's like a driveway.
Pardon?
It's just like a driveway, basically.
Yes, but if he sells the front lot, the
850.
850 lot, and because he owns the two that he's making it road to, if he sells that, that makes those two lots in the back landlocked. There's no legal road to it, from what I, you know, there's a grandfathered through it, but it's not a legal road. It's not a city road or dedicated or anything. So it would have to be privately maintained if you wanted to develop those lots. So if you want to develop those lots at some future point, that easement needs to be the width of a road, a city road, at least for passage back and forth, just not one way, so that those lots could, you wouldn't be able to get that because of the building.
My question would be, how can you parcel off the back lots and not have access to them? Because those lots were not sold. They were sold later, so they weren't sold together like the front lot with the back. He came back in and sold them later.
Mr. Rao?
Years ago, all that property was city property, okay? And the property owners that owned the lots along Hope Avenue came to the city and requested something be done. So the city took and deeded the property that goes in back of all them houses to the individual owners on that. That's not what I was told. I was told Wes Holt sold that property too. No.
That was on my side of the street, he did. Wes owned it on my side. I don't know on the other side.
And Wes came to the city, he was one that came to the city and requested that they do something. So the city deeded all that property as far as well as I can remember. That's been quite a few years ago. So that's the way I understand it. Okay. I could be wrong, but I have to mark it down, right? It would be down somewhere.
Linda, this is Ken. I can't hear my sound. Still can't hear it.
Oh, no, it is. That's a
It has
different,
Now we got it.
you got it?
Yeah, now
Yeah,
Yeah, because I don't want, that's what we're trying to get away from. We don't want, these kids and others coming in on four-wheelers because they'd have as much access as anybody else. That's the big thing we want to get away from. And from what I've talked to people, and of course this is down the road and it probably wouldn't be me anyway, is that easement back there, whoever owns those properties can actually fence that off if they give keys to the city so they have access to it. That's not a road for these kids. I mean, the other day I was out there and I drive back there to dump some stuff in the back and they flew right by me and I'm like, slow down. And they just looked at me and like, and it's, I don't mind them coming through if they were just, being nice about it and respectful. They don't do that.
But if you want to store building materials or something there, you want it to be secure also.
Well, yes, yeah, and that would be nice, but the biggest thing is, I mean, I know Eve lives on that right now in her back of her lot, and then they come flying. Yeah, it's just, anyway,
Well, they're doing that instead of being on the road, on
yeah,
hold.
yeah,
So, you know, it would be-
yeah. And they're on the road too, same ones. They just,
Yeah.
anyway,
They just pick where they want to go.
no, anyway, so.
They're actually using that beautiful $1 million walkway. We've run them off there any number of times.
Yeah, they pretty much do whatever they want, so. Another subject.
Well, at this time, does anybody want to make a motion?
Well, there's one comment I want to make, and I talked to Kevin earlier about it. It's not something that we have to send letters out to because it's not changing of anything. Because I talked to Linda about it earlier this week. And, but I think it's something, and I know Brian's already talked to the owner next to him, knowing about the easement. But I think it's something we need to look at as we go further into stuff like this, even if it doesn't affect any of our policies, the neighbor next to him should be notified. So if all of a sudden somebody comes up 1 o'clock in the morning and drives through that easement and they're sleeping in their house and lights are blaring and their noise is going on, they'll kind of know what it is instead of saying, what is that? So at least the next door neighbor should be notified. And I know Kyle already knows, so
Yeah, I've
that's not a
talked to
problem. That's just something I think we as a group need to look at.
Will this be recorded on the maps, or will this just be in the minutes that you'll have to look up some point in time to prove that there is or isn't an easement?
Well,
You know,
I don't know. That's, I guess, why we're here.
It's not a valid easement unless it's on a map. So, I mean, the thing is he owns both those parcels. He could just dig a driveway.
I'm looking down the line, he's not gonna
Right,
live
right.
forever.
Right, I understand that, but that's what I'm saying is so we're just dealing with private parcels now. If Mr. and Mrs. Roberts sell that piece of land in the back, then that's something that they'll have to negotiate with the buyer, right? So the buyer should either be savvy enough or should hire a real estate agent to say, listen, there's no ingress or egress to this property, I need an easement, and that's what they'll have to go through, but that's a private transaction. I mean, in order for it to be a valid easement, then he would need to get a map, and that map would need to have meets and bounds of the ingress and egress easement. But if he just wants to go and dig a private drive or blade a private drive on his road or on his property, that he can do that. It's not technically a recorded or legal easement. If he holds it out to be an ingress egress, if he ends up selling the land, then he's given someone actual notice that there is an easement on his property to access the land in the back. I mean, we're getting into a bunch of what ifs here. At the end of the day, if he wants an easement, he'll have to record it. He's kind of here, honestly, I don't even think he needed to come before this board. I think he came just to make sure all his bases are covered, which is fine. That's not a problem. But again, we're not dealing with dedicated roads, we're not dealing with city property. Really, the city has no liability as to what the Roberts do with their land from the future. Any liability that falls because of lack of ingress or egress to the dominant property will be taken up between him and any subsequent landowners.
Could he just file a written document on 850 Holt to be recorded to that
No,
PN number?
no, because an easement, you can't just record a document that says there's an easement on this property. The easement has to be outlined. There has to be meets and bounds for the easement or a map recorded that shows exactly where the easement is.
That can be done with words.
Sorry?
Most of that can be done with words. But
Yeah, it can be done with words, but I mean, you have to get
that's why I'm
measurements. It
saying,
has to be.
instead of having a whole
Yeah.
map done, which is very expensive,
Well, no, you'll still have to
Oh,
get the
you
map
still have to have the
because
map.
the map will, even if those words, it would say 38 degrees, 5 minutes, 36 seconds north or whatever. And the only way you do that is with highly sophisticated equipment that shows you the true direction you're going, right? So the easement is just as important to get right if you're going to parcel off the land, right? Because it needs to have specific meets and bounds, just so everyone understands when they go to the recorder's office, when they're buying a piece of land or looking at a piece of land, exactly what that easement is and where that easement is. And so again, if the Roberts are just going to take a blade and blade a 14-foot road on their property, as long as it doesn't violate any city ordinances or codes regarding property, then they're free to do that.
he doesn't even have to come here.
Yeah, and I think he did, which isn't a problem.
Yeah.
But again, if it's going to be a valid easement for future, then it has to be recorded using appropriate meets and bounds measurements or a map, which will also have the meets and bounds. But again, I don't think in this particular situation, granting or allowing him to put a private drive in is what I would call it, puts the city in any liability. And I think that's what you're looking for, is whether or not it puts the city in any future liability for allowing him to build a private drive on his road.
So,
You didn't have to pay a fee to get on the agenda for this, did you?
so
This
Mike,
is my time, I'm very.
Yeah.
Very important man.
Because, if you started,
so the item, the way it's written, though, it is Kevin Roberts' request for an easement on the west side of the house. So at this point, you're saying it's really not an easement, so,
What I would say is you can approve him making a private drive on his property. I think that would still fit in within.
even though it says easement.
Right. I mean, easement is
Get technical on other stuff.
a legal term. But I don't think it's a problem. The action item gives enough notice of what the Roberts intend to do. And the Roberts are intending to put ingress and egress, even though it says easement, on 850 Holt Street.
Are you gonna have a gate on it, being it's not, you're not gonna make it a public gate? There will be something, yes, I don't know, yes. And it'll have, it'll probably be locked, but it'll have keys to whoever has, the right or whatever to get in there. That's the whole thing, we just don't want anybody just going back there.
And the city can still get in from behind.
They can get in from behind and the city can have a key to it too if they need to. But I don't see that they need, because like I said, the manholes are on both ends. They've got the easement in the back and they've got the road in the front. So the more we thought about it, there's really no reason. So anyway.
so you're really asking for a conditional use with no maps or anything else to make a driveway on your property. And it's already yours, so you can use it because you're the one that's gonna be using it. So you really don't need a conditional use approval. Because
Okay.
we're not approving anything,
Okay.
are we?
No,
We're not
really.
approving anything.
As long as Ken says that he's not violating any city ordinances by putting in a private drive. Ken?
Yeah, he's not violating any ordinances. And if he sells one of those parcels, then he still has to go through and get a parcel map to sell it to another individual. That's when we need to address that easement.
So he's not violating any city ordinances. And so,
No.
yeah, so you can approve him making a private drive, or you can say, thank you for coming in, Mr. Roberts. I'm glad you came in to discuss this with us. You can do whatever you'd like with your property, as long as it doesn't violate any city ordinances.
And at this time, would
And that
anybody,
would be my suggestion. It's an excellent one.
so at this point, are we taking a motion or not then?
It's up to you as a chairperson.
So would anybody like to make a motion? Okay, so for lack of a motion, we're going to drop this one. I'm sure there's a technical
And
way to
Mrs.
say
Roberts.
that. All right. Right. Item number D, approve and deny properties reviewed by the City of Caliente Planning Commission, being sent letters advising property owners to clean the properties to be in compliance with City of Caliente Ordinance Number 138, passed on March 3rd, 1994. So at this point, we have taken maps and gone around and identified properties that we feel are have significant issues with in two manners. One with debris, excess debris, and one with the weeds that have just taken over the town. There are maps. I actually added my map. I thought I had already sent it, but apparently I hadn't. Sorry, guys. There's another map. They're identified as initially we were going to be doing letters advising them that they are non-compliant with that particular ordinance. Now you had a specific question. Would you like to repeat that question?
I'm curious, we're talking about people, wrinkles and things, and I want Caliente to thrive and grow. Like I said, it's a little mini Prescott, but it's a mess. And then everybody's working hard and doing everything, but my concern is, how are we taking care of, you know what, can I give these to you? And I went around myself today and took some pictures. I mean, I don't know if you're interested in looking at them.
We've already looked. I mean, we have maps very clearly outlined of areas that need additional help.
This one's on the main drag through town that just is so horrid.
Is that Vincent?
So I'm just curious, is there maybe perhaps a 5-year plan? Is there for the businesses along this beautiful little main street, this $1 million sidewalk that, there's weeds all over the city property, all the way up and down. I mean, it doesn't take too much weed killer out in the gutter or on the sidewalk. There's sidewalks that you can hardly walk down. You have to walk out the street to get around the weeds that are growing out. So is there any kind of a plan, like a 5-year plan? We're gonna take this amount of money and we're gonna work on this section. And we're gonna work on this section. So, I'm wondering with the business owners in town that are right along that main, that hotel on the corner, the gentleman that owns that.
I need to apologize to the commission, but unless that person is speaking is in front of a microphone, I cannot hear them.
No, it's working.
Okay, hi Ken. My concern is the horrific condition that a lot of the lots, the privately owned lots, people that come from Las Vegas, California, they buy and then they go away and they leave it a mess. I'm wondering, is there any kind of a plan, a 5-year plan perhaps to start to really take care of our main thoroughfare to town other than the $1 million sidewalk? Because that's in beautiful condition, well, except the back parts that are a little bit troublesome. So I'm curious, is there a plan? That's what I'm asking. Do we have any kind of a plan to address?
There is the start of a plan in progress right now. It was addressed today in a separate meeting we had. The mayor has given to the Public Works Department a list of items that need to be taken care of. City property. We have discussed before about city property not being taken care of or coming down on private property individuals to take care of their property. The plan is being moved forward to take care of the city property. And that's as close as we came to a plan at this point.
I have another question. It's like some of the houses that are the private property that is down towards the dollar store. I mean, it's really, really bad. Is there any way the city can have the owners put up a block wall or some of those strips through the chain link fencing to hide the mess that has been there since I lived here 30 years ago? I mean, is there any way to take care of something like this? Can we hide it? Can we have the owners hide their mess if they're not going to clean it up?
Ken,
That's what we're proposing to do right now with this weed letter. Is also a trash letter, a abandoned vehicle letter. All those will be included in that letter we send to the property owner.
Okay, awesome. And if you need any help, I volunteer.
Stay right there, we'll enlist you.
that piece of paper.
I'm joking with you, of course.
Ken, just out of curiosity, we did this last year, and a significant number of homeowners actually did clear their property up once they were served the letter. Do you have an idea of percentages or anything like that? Because I think it was pretty significant.
It was a large number. I don't have an exact number, but my guesstimate would be that out of the letters that we sent in, we had a positive response on probably 70 to 75% of them. There were some of them that we had to contact individually and press on them a little bit, but yeah, we had a positive response.
Okay, Ken, question for you, Ken. Those who did not, the 25% that didn't do it, and probably won't do it this time, what is the next step?
The next step is to issue them a citation, and we have to do that through the city attorney's office and follow legal procedures to do that. So
Okay,
that's a good question for our attorney.
how much is the citation? Is it an amount? Is it just,
So it would be under the general, yeah, I'd have to look, but I don't know it off the top of my head. I do not issue citations. Law enforcement issues citations. I prosecute citations
right?
for the city of Caliente. And so what would need to happen is we would issue citations, we'd schedule a court date, and they'd all come in and either pay the citation or the judge would do something else. So
Because like what Eve said, there's some of those places that's been that way for years and years. And they get the letter, and they get the letter, and they get the letter, and they haven't changed. So we need to be prepared to move to the next step as well on some of those people, and we have to determine our time frame, I think.
So would Ken be the one that would issue those citations?
the law enforcement would issue those citations.
So we would have to call the sheriff's department. Okay,
Well, are you sure of that? Because I have issued citations in the past.
Yeah,
They are,
if you have power to issue citations, then you issue citations as long as the court's aware that you're issuing citations and they're okay with that.
well, unless I'm mistaken, our city ordinance gives me the power to do that.
Oh, okay. You would know better than I would. That's fine.
So I just have hi, Ken, this is Yvonne Whittle. I have a question about that. So if you issue the citation and we get no response from the people, and perhaps a second citation is sent out and still no, they don't come to court, they don't do anything, at what point do the police get involved? Who then takes up the charge if they won't answer or come forward? What happens?
Then we turn it over to law enforcement. Law enforcement issues a private well, not a private citation, a public citation, and then we take them to court.
Okay.
That's where our attorney comes in.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Mary?
Ordinance says that officer is defined as fire chief or assistant fire chief, building inspector, and police sheriff officer of the city of Caliente. So you could probably. But the big joke is that this has happened and people have got their letters and they've got 2 letters and they ignore it and they have never been contacted and they have not for years cleaned up their property because nothing happens. There's no repercussions.
In that ordinance, I apologize, I don't have a copy of it. Is there a specific monetary fine that we can lien properties? Awesome.
$50 to $1,000. Do you want to look at it while I'm?
Which one are you looking at?
for-
Oh, yeah, sorry, it's under section 9. It says not less than $50 nor more than $1,000.
Does it not also say somewhere in there that there were costs involved? Because we have done that in the past. Like when we had to demo some buildings that were not legal.
It
The
just
owner
says,
wound up having to pay for that. A lien had been filed by the city on the property.
it just says court costs and fine.
Well, then we need to establish a fine perimeter then.
I think if I'm understanding correctly, I don't think the legal counsel has ever pursued liening the properties. Am I understanding?
I've never liened a property for weeds, no.
No, not for weeds, but we have on other issues. And it's the same, under the same section of the ordinance.
But we have the right to do that if we choose, if they are non-compliant continually, correct?
I had to take a look at
Correct.
statutes, but yeah.
If not, that might be something we put on the agenda, is to make sure that we can collect in some manner, whether it's a lien or something else. What do you mean? At the end of the day, all it does is puts
Oh, so-
a cloud on the title to where it has to be
Yeah.
cleared before it's sold.
So section 8, subsection B does say that if they fail to comply with the citation, that the city can cause the work to be performed at the expense of the property owner, and the city have a lien therefore upon the property. So yeah, there's power to lien the property.
Okay, so we do have the ability to do it, I just don't think it's been done in the past. So, so I think at this point, do we clarify, we send these letters out, we give them 30 days to comply? I mean, what kind of timeframes are we giving them? We go back and do.
What I
a
will
s-
do, and what I will do is take the letter that we sent out last year and modify it some, go over with our city attorney so I don't do anything wrong. And then we'll get it issued. I would say we should be able to issue that in 2 weeks if we get the council to go along with us.
So we're waiting 2 weeks to issue the letter to give them a month. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what it said.
That's what you said.
We'll issue the letter as soon as possible.
Okay.
And so it
If
has,
there's some reason that the council does not want us to do it, then we're still an advisory body.
okay, so the letters have to go out certified return receipt, just to make everyone aware as well.
Correct.
Ouch.
Is that hometown businesses?
It says property owner, so.
So it's all properties. So do we have to send it certified on the first go-round, or can we do that on the second go-round?
It says, section 8, subsection A says, upon determination by the enforcement officer that private property is maintained or allowed to remain in violation of this ordinance, the officer may issue an order to correct the offending condition. And it says, such order shall be served upon the owner or person in control of the property as shown by the Lincoln County Assessor's records by mailing a copy of the order by certified mail return receipt requested to the address of the owner as shown by the records of the Lincoln County Assessor.
So to me, I read that as you send out a basic cover letter. If they don't comply at that point, the compliance officer gets involved, correct?
Well,
And at
so-
that point, it would be
So,
certified.
yeah, a couple things. We can just send out the letters, non-return receipt, and
Right.
hope that they comply. If they don't, then before we can do any work on our own or potentially fine them or lien or charge them for
Then we
anything,
send it that
then we
time.
can send return receipt.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can send out kind of a, I'm sorry, we can kind of send out a, a pre-letter, I guess, and says, hey, get your yard in order or we're gonna start the process, right?
We were supposed to send out a notice with the power bills, I understood. I just got mine today. There's nothing in it except the bill. No reminder to clean up or anything, that any of this is going on.
May I ask what timeframe you're gonna give these people to respond, just to respond? 24 hours. I'll take that.
That's what she does for tomato.
Hey, did you hear what was asked?
You have to, you must respond by such and such a date.
Ken, wasn't it, how long was it? Was it 2 weeks or 30 days or what? What did we do last year?
For the notice to go out,
Yes,
I think we gave them 2 weeks to do something the last time. And then if they don't, then we can put our own time frame on it for the second letter.
And perhaps a copy of the specific ordinance should go with that letter.
that's probably a good idea. Highlighted maybe.
Yes.
I have a technical question on this. So there's a lot of properties that the yards are immaculate. However, the city sidewalk is either non-existent and there's weeds growing out of that, or there's a foot between the fencing, let's say, and the sidewalk. Is that the city's responsibility or is that private landowners?
If it's within the city's easement or the city's property, it's our responsibility.
Okay, just wanted to clarify
I
that.
know my list was for all this stuff. My city list was longer than my individual list,
Yes,
so I know that for a fact.
I looked at that and you did a great job on doing that.
Thanks, thank you.
So I have a question. I mean, I love all of this and I love to get things cleaned up and making things look beautiful. What if you have someone there that can't do it? What if it's some elderly that not do it?
and that's definitely an issue because there's very limited people that will even do this kind of work. I know I personally have tried to get some of the properties.
Young man in town that has cleaned up several, properties that he found rattlesnake and a pile of weeds on the property. He's not who he's first,
It's Colton.
Colton.
Yes.
boy, he's done a great job.
But at the end of the day, if everybody hits them, these aren't going to get done in 2 weeks. So, I mean, there is that.
What I'm saying is, what if you do have someone, let's just say they can't afford to do it, they don't have the means, what can we do? I'm sure it's not, I mean, people should take care of their yards, but there could be people, for whatever reason, that can't.
So I think at that point, that becomes one of the, if you don't do it, we'll do it for you and charge you, right?
Yeah, or you
I would
organize a
think that would be
community
an
service event.
individual basis type
Yeah.
thing. If they
Maybe a church
contacted
group or
us,
something.
then we could look at it at individual, because if you open it up for saying, oh, we can't afford it, then every one of these people are gonna say, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. But if it's an individual person who can't do it financially or physically, maybe there's a way that we can adjust things, but I think that's one-on-one instead of making a general statement with that, because then it just opens up the door for other things. Yeah, that's a good point, though. Yeah.
I'll speak really loud. What about community service? I know a couple of years ago, RSVP Park, SVP does take on some community service people. I got hold of June and luckily she met the guy that was doing community service. Can you get hold of the chorus thing? I mean, there's a lot of people that should be doing community service. Maybe find out if you can get them through the chorus or something. Because that's free and it's helping them and it's helping the people that can't afford it.
Yeah. That would be something that, the planning commission couldn't do. It'd be more like the city itself.
I would think so.
Yeah.
The city attorney maybe talking to the courts. We're all looking at you, bud.
But I know that's how things got done. I mean, we didn't have these services. I mean, this guy's on community service.
This is Ken again, and I'm sorry to keep bringing this up, but because of my medical condition, I couldn't be there in person tonight. but I'm just not hearing what's going on with people from the audience.
Okay, they're just wondering if we get the court system with people who have to have what?
Community service.
Community service, if there's a way we could hook into that and have them help with some of the problems that we have with the weeds.
Yeah, the court always tells them that they can go to the city for community service, but, I mean, there's a couple of problems. I mean, Grant's not here, but then Grant's got to expend city resources
Oversee.
to oversee them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what happened before is we were getting crews from the honor camp cleaning up a lot of stuff. And that used to be, I don't know, 3 days a week, I think, and now we don't get them at all anymore. And
Right.
so, I know I had a conversation with Grant about that last week. So there's, yeah.
Can the city hire the workers through the program that Mike is with? The employment thing for,
The
yeah,
workforce?
workforce?
I think the city
That's
employs,
subsidized, right?
right, I think the city employs a number of people through workforce.
But I'm saying to do nothing but clean weeds. Can we do that? Or I don't know what the criteria is on that, but maybe that's something to look into.
Sure, there could be. I mean, we hire seasonal employees all the time, so.
Well, and also, but what, from what I've understood workforce to be, at least when we've done it here in the office, is we're training them and giving them an idea of what a job is. So I'm not
landscaping
saying
job.
that they couldn't, yeah, I'm not saying that you can do the weeds per se, you know, because,
Use a shovel
well,
and a
that's my
hoe and a
point.
rake.
Well, it's not just that, but weed eater, you know, all kinds of different equipment.
Well, I don't know, tell me to go away if this isn't anything to do with it, but, so if the city, I'm not sure if he's the city manager or whatever his title is, I didn't get that.
Public Works Manager.
So, does he have a plan, like, okay, on this day, this person takes care of this section, this person takes care of this section, and I'm gonna drive by and make sure you're in your sections clear and what we laid out? Is there any kind of plan like that?
Right, so this is kind of what I'm saying, and I don't want to put words in Grant's mouth, and I don't know exactly what they've discussed, but Grant's job is more than city beautification. I mean, they take care of all the sewers, they do some of the electrical stuff that they're allowed to do, maintaining roads. I mean, he does work on weeds once in a while, but a couple of years ago, the honor camp would bring crews out 3 times a week to do the weeds around the city. And now the Public Works Department has 2 or 3 less employees than it did 3 years ago, and it doesn't have the additional 3 days a week from the honor camp. And so again, I don't know exactly what was discussed in a meeting earlier today with Grant and the Public Works Department. And I don't want to put words in Grant's mouth because I don't know what their day-to-day looks like, but I know that they stay very busy, and they have a lot less manpower to take care of the weeds than they did 3 years ago when I first started.
I have an exception to that, and I'll
Yeah.
state my case, and then I'll shut up so you guys can go home. So I have personal experience with one of the guys that was hired to work for the city. And his job was basically to find a shady spot and hide out, okay? So back and forth down my back alley, all day long, ran in that little 4x4. I never once saw that person work. Never once. So that's what I'm talking about, supervision.
And that's what Grant needs to worry about, is there's people that, and she's perfectly right. The people that are out there that you get to do their work have to be supervised to make sure the work's being done. That's like any other job. If you don't have a supervisor, you just
So-
loaf around.
Okay, so we're kind of getting off into the
Yeah.
weeds here. We're talking about Public Works positions now. I guess there needs to be action taken on whether or not we're sending letters out to the addresses listed on the weed list that we have.
Yeah, our list is.
Yeah, they've got tons of.
Would anybody like to make an motion about allowing us to send out the letters on the properties that have been identified as being weed properties and/or debris properties?
I'll make a motion that we send out the letters as quick as we can, give them 2 weeks to respond, and then readdressed all of them again at our next meeting.
Would anybody like to second that?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Do I recognize him now or say motion carried?
Well, yeah, we
Okay.
need to,
So at this point, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed?
Okay.
Motion's carried. Mr. Rao? Ken said he's going to take the original letter from last year and meet with the city attorney to adapt it.
So it should be put on our agenda next time, right?
Yes, can we add that? It won't give them the full 2 weeks, though.
Do we need to we already voted on it. I don't know if we can go back and change it. Because we need to say we'd like to address it again in our next meeting. That's 2 weeks away, so.
well, we could just put it on the agenda, talk, see if anyone has responded to the letters at that point.
Yeah, we can at least discuss
So
it.
just a discussion topic?
You're looking for a response, like a written response, as to how they're gonna,
No,
what they're gonna do, or are you looking for them to do something?
No,
That response?
in the past, we've just basically gone back around a second time and seen who's done it and who hasn't, and bring in a brand-new list. That's what we've done in the past.
yeah, so we can just put it on discussion item next time, and then the time after that, if we need to take additional action, we'll put it as a discussion
Would be an
slash
action item. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why
Hopefully, we can get it
we
between
need to
them.
work on this sooner because it takes forever to get it done.
And then it will be a fire hazard, most of these tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
You can't get down one of the alleys right back there behind,
My house.
behind your house, the whole,
You can't buy my house. I got my weeds done in the alley.
you can't get past the alley.
All right, moving forward, approving or denying the recommendation to the council addressing the non-working streetlights in the city, especially at Rose Park. So, Mr. Rao presented us with a list that has already been presented to the city council. Do, I know we're missing one because the one behind my house flashes all night long. Just saying. So at this point, do we know which ones work and which ones don't? At this point?
Not even sure who placed it on the agenda. Was there,
Was that you? Did you?
Mike Wynn?
oh, okay.
Okay.
So it sounded like he had some specific ones that he wanted to talk about.
He
but-
was mostly concerned about the Rose Park lights because they were out, and he just,
Mentioned you've already had a meeting about it. Do you know who we can talk to find out what's been done and what hasn't? Or are we just presenting this list and saying, hey, get whatever isn't done, done? I mean, what do you?
presented it to the city council and also to the Lincoln County Power District,
Dave Luttrell, general manager.
general manager. And Grant, city foreman, said that the next day they were down working on them because he had a list of stuff. What he got done, I don't know. You might check with Grant.
I've seen a couple of new ones put up, yeah. But I still think that it's our responsibility to put a little more pressure on getting it done by approving it and passing it on to the city council to move forward with it. The more pressure they can get, more everybody saying, no, we need these fixed now, the better off we are.
So if I have a suggestion. What if we tabled this for tonight? In the meantime, in the next 2 weeks, we get the information as to what has been fixed and what has not. And then possibly next week, or next meeting, we actually send, whether it's a certified letter to the Lincoln County Power. These are the items we'd like to see addressed as soon as possible.
Yeah,
I don't know what the contract language is that's, as far as presenting stuff like that, but
Have a list to start with, to see what's done.
I think we should identify what they've already fixed.
yeah.
I think the things that we're talking about are not necessarily the power district's responsibility. It's our public works department that should be pointing out the
No,
items that are not working to the power district.
right. And that's happened, Ken. And the list has been given to the power district, and they were out here the next day working on it. So So I think Cheryl's right. What we need to do is just table this item for now. Mr. Nguyen, who's not here this evening, who wanted to discuss it, obviously had some specific ones he wanted to talk about. And at this point, we don't know if they've been, if that problem's been addressed or not. So before next time, whoever has a problem with this, they can just come to this meeting with a list of the lights that are still problematic.
But if we already have a list from Mr. Rao, why don't we just approve it and have them move forward with getting them done? I mean,
They've already moved forward with that list.
well, I know that, but
They fixed all of them on that list?
Don't know. That's
Yeah, we
my,
don't know.
let's find out which ones they've fixed, and we'll complain about the ones that aren't, as opposed to everything.
No, I think that you should follow what Rick's saying. I mean, that makes me, move it on, send that list on to them. Say, we don't know which ones you fixed. Who did they report to? Who did the power company report to?
Well, I know on this list they have, that we either approve or deny. So I'm making a motion that we approve the non-working lights be passed on to the city.
They could do that and get those fixed while you're heading on down, trying to locate which other ones don't work. They can only do a few at a time anyway, right?
I would say maybe send the list, but send it with the suggestion that the city council sends a letter to the power company.
Yeah, it's already been provided to the power company.
But I mean, has it been in a formal format or a certified letter, or, you know what I'm saying? Or is it just a, hey, I need to get this one fixed?
It was given to Dave Luttrell at the last city council meeting.
Okay,
I think the other thing to consider is we have city council meeting tomorrow.
right.
Where we'll probably get a report on what actually got done. I don't
No,
know
'cause
if we will.
I think he was just here 2 weeks ago, so his monthly
Is
report's
that once a
in
month?
a couple weeks from now.
I just mean from Grant, I'm sure Grant
Oh,
has an update on
Probably.
what got done. So we haven't heard anything yet on what has actually been done. Grant may have something on that as well.
All right, so at this point, we have, I'm sorry? So we have a motion on the floor.
Yep.
Would anybody like to second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Motion carries. Items for discussion only, the building inspector's report. Kenner, you have,
I've been kind of out of the loop here the last 7 or 8 days with my back, so I really don't have anything. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Ken, I have a question for you. You know, we're just the planning committee, but a lot of times there's buildings going on that has nothing to do with or anything with us. But like, for example, where the old OP Skaggs used to be, there's a building going up and they're doing all kinds of work there. I have no idea what it is. And if somebody's building the house, I have no idea who's building the house or any type of stuff like that. In your report, could you happen to mention any of that stuff going on so we kind of have a clue?
I can make it a more formalized process if you like. Generally, I have something for this body as well as the council in my report, but again, I've been laid up, so I
Yeah,
don't have it this time.
I just kind of feel bad that I'm on the planning and I don't know what they're doing at OP Skaggs, that store right next to the old show hall. I don't know what it is. I don't know who's doing it.
Well, John, I know who's doing that, and all you gotta do is ever ask me. I generally keep up on what's going on. That individual is John Ellis. He has that under construction for a rental property for a business to go in. He has
Okay.
done that now to 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings along what I jokingly refer to as the strip mall.
Okay,
And he's doing a great job. He has the buildings that he's working on leased out already. Soon as he's complete with them, then people will be putting a business in them.
okay.
I can't tell you off the top of my head what all the businesses are, but they are in the leasing process.
No, if we just get some of that information, it'd be really nice to know.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I appreciate you reminding me.
That way, that would be, I wouldn't be in the dark and feel kind of stupid saying, I don't know.
Well, you're supposed to know everything. You know that.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for the building inspector? So at this time, we'll take public comment related to any matters concerning the city of Caliente. In consideration of those who may wish to provide public comment, please avoid repetition and limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Does anybody have any other?
Some of the street signs, you can't even see the name on them. Is that like a yearly or 5-year thing or something where you go through and you can't even see the name of the street?
Ken, can you hear her?
No, I did not.
Ken, they're talking about the street signs, so some of them you can't read. Is there a plan to replace any? I know it's just an open item, so you don't have to answer,
Yeah.
but that's just a
Well,
concern that people have.
So again, we have to refer that to the Public Works Department,
Okay.
and it wouldn't hurt to have that on our list. It's a little late for that right now, but let's not make the list any longer than it is. But that's where it belongs. Anything like that that pertains to the city business that you see a need for, we can put on that list.
So at this point, do we want to add that to as a discussion item to the next agenda?
Action discussion item on, yeah, road
Okay.
signs.
Okay, she's going to add that to the discussion.
Can we all make them cute with the trim on top?
No,
Wow. Yes.
So I walk regularly and I walk around the main street there where the big hotel is on the corner. It's literally, as you know, falling apart. Bricks are falling off, things are falling off the building, and it's a travesty. So I don't know what the interior looks like. I don't know who owns it, but I'm wondering, is that hotel going to be condemned? Or does the property owner have to do something with this eyesore? What happens with this thing? I mean, it's terrible. You know that it's rat infested. I mean, it's a mess. I don't have to tell you
Ken,
that.
can you hear her?
I cannot.
Ken, she's talking about the hotel on the corner.
Has it been
Bricks are
condemned?
coming off and different things. How, is there something can be done with that? Is that a letter we send out to, how do we deal
We
with
can
something like?
include that on this list.
I'm
Is it-
quite
is
sure
it
it's on
hazard?
every list that's out there. But I think her question is more to the point of the fact that it should be, or potentially should be condemned due to the debris that's falling from the interior and lack of floors and,
You just said it. It's on every list
Well,
out there. At what point?
that
do we
is
start
still-
making a list?
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but that is still private property unless there's a hazard. We don't go in and inspect private property. It has to be a definite hazard before we can legally do anything with it.
Can you call an inspector in to inspect the building for compliance?
That's me.
can we call you in?
I would like to call you
Yeah.
in when you're
Well,
feeling bad.
yes, we can do that.
And
If
you
I have a
fall-
complaint,
Yes. if
then
you
I
fall
go look
through-
at it.
If you fall through the floor, then I think it can be condemned. Yeah, but
We-
I'm teasing you, Ken. So anyway, that was a question because boy, that thing's there's something, if somebody decides to break into that, they could get hurt. It's easy. All you have to do is break out one of the windows, pull a piece of wood
You can walk
off.
in right in the backyard, right in the back.
It's terrible. Anyway, thank you.
It is sad because that is on the National Registry of Historic Places.
Can something be done with it? Who's the owner? Contact the owner and something be done. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah.
So at this time, let's schedule the date and review the agenda topics for next meeting.
15th, hello. First and the 15th. So the 15th, and so far I have that, we're going to just have a
Correct.
And then action discussion about street sign replacement and maintenance. And were we going to talk at all about the streetlights again?
Yes.
Yes.
In what way?
Well, we just want an update
An
and,
update on-
and it's just, we need to do any, further action or contact further people to get them done.
Whether,
That's just the discussion.
Somebody brought up a notice, to go out the power bill or zero bills for.
If you put action,
Concerned about that if we're doing the letters.
I'm sorry.
Somebody brought up the fact that we thought we were sending out notices with utility bills.
Correct. They did not go out.
Know if we're sending out letters or getting some of
they were supposed to go out, they did not go out. That would have been a warning for
That's
everybody.
30 days out, so, because they just went out. So that may be something we address at the next meeting. Do we want to go ahead and put them out in their next go-around?
Put what out in the next round?
Go ahead and put another letter about keeping your properties up and stuff like that.
Well,
It's after the
that
fact,
was supposed to be a warning for the letter going out, so.
I understand.
That would, we're gonna,
kind of negates it, but,
maybe a
okay.
thank you for those who have cleaned their,
Yeah, that might be a way to go as a public thank you for the ones.
but yeah, that was supposed to go out to be a reminder. And then we have the letter, and then we have the more official letter, and so we've just,
We blew it.
it's passed.
So at this time, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Worked on the park a month and a half ago.
You what?
They worked on the park a month and a half ago. I was out there. Looked at 3 or 4 of them. Pulled the globe and stuff off the one on the corner of that Main and the street as it goes by my house.
Yeah.
Pulled the globe off and never put it back.
Well, they may have to order some of this stuff to have replacement parts.
Well, I'm saying, but
Because, didn't the city used to take care of all that stuff?
and it used to get